Hello everyone. So let's look at this topic of library control software, and we will also look at two questions on this topic. Uh, so first we will discuss the topic and then we will look at questions on this topic. And let me tell you guys, do not get scared whenever you look at new IT term or any technical jargon. In fact, this is something not only for CISA but even in your practical world also, because when you'll be working, or when you'll I'm sure like whoever are already working, they might understand this thing. So it's like this. If you want to work in IT, you will definitely come across lots of new terms. So it's very common. So instead of getting scared, try to link. First of all, try to understand and try to look at the literal meaning of those words, the English dictionary meaning. So instead of getting scared, first understand what exactly do we mean by each and every word in normal English dictionary, or in normal terms, and then try to link the IT meaning with that particular term. And trust me, if you do that, you will never forget the meaning of that particular term. And this is something I always say, and this is something which we have followed in across our lectures, right? Which makes the entire subject very easy, right? And it also helps you to prepare for the future, right? All right then, so instead of wasting more time, let's get into this topic of library control software, right? So we will link this with the normal library, so which we all know, where you get the books, you read the books, right? So we will link this particular meaning of this entire term with this example of a normal reading library, right? So let me make two columns over here. I would say reading library, and I would say here software library, right? All right. So first of all, when we say reading library, what do we get in a library? What do we get in a reading library? We get what? We get lots of books, journals, magazines, right? Similarly, when we talk about software library, what do you think? What will you get in software library? The answer is software, right? Or can I say pre compiled pieces of code, the development code, scripts, or functions, right? So when we say reading library, what exactly is happening over there? Okay, someone is managing the books, right? Books, journals, magazines. Similarly, when we say software library, someone is managing the softwares, okay, in a organization which is into developing, if they develop any kind of softwares, or maybe like they work for some other organizations, they have their own software which they sell, and then they manage all those things. So basically what exactly is happening is that we are managing what? We are managing the software or pre-compiled pieces of codes, scripts, or functions, right? And you know what? So even if you don't understand the meaning, when I say library, what is a library? It's a kind of a repository of something, right? And that particular repository or particular library is what? It is controlling the software. So in a normal library, we control what? We manage, we control what? The books, lots of books, magazines, journals, and here we are what? We are controlling, or we are managing what? We are managing the normal software or pre-compiled pieces of code, scripts, right? So here, in case of a normal library, we get what? We get wealth of information ready to be accessed, right? And what do we get over here? Here we get collection of pre-made functions or ready-made functions ready to be utilized, ready to be utilized in different programs, in different programs, or you can say projects, right? Now, who is that person who manages the reading library? We call that person as librarian. Librarian is the person who manages what? The reading library. Similarly, here what do we call, what will we call? Can you guess? The answer is very simple. Software librarian. Software librarian. Or you may also call it as system administrator, right? Sometimes they may some organization, they may give a role of software librarian also. It all depends, when we talk about roles, it all depends from company to company. It cannot be like a hard and fast rule that this particular task can only be done by this particular people. Okay, it all depends upon from company to company. It is subjective, right? But normally we will call that person as software librarians or system administrator, right? This is the person. All right, so what do this person do? Librarian. What do this person do in reading library? It will what? He will manage what? Access to books, right? The main function is what? Access to books, right? And which book, right? Maybe we can say first, you know, uh, he will issue what? He will issue library card. Okay, so basically only library card holder is authorized to access books, right? Don't you think so? So whenever we go to any reading library, whenever you want to join any library, you need to take what? You need to take the membership, right? And then you will get a library card, right? And this is what makes you authorized person, right? We will also discuss the similar example, or the connecting example in IT, right? But try to understand, so initially you must be a member, right? You must be an authorized person. I cannot randomly access any library and access any book, right? It is not allowed. I must be a member. I must be an authorized person, right? I must be what? I must be authorized person, right? Then that person, the librarian, will manage which book, issued to whom, which book issued to whom. Then, and that person will also ensure that the book is returned back in right condition, in the right condition, right? Now, similarly, in case of software library also the same thing happens. What? Only authorized systems or individuals can use specific function or piece of code from from software library, right? So basically what I'm trying to say over here is that only authorized person can what? Access and modify these library. Only authorized person, only authorized developer, right, can access, can modify that particular piece of code or the particular piece of function, right? Same thing what we have discussed in access to books, right? So when we say here issue library card, basically what we're trying to connect is that only authorized person, if you're a member, then only. Similarly here also, if you're authorized, then only, right? So basically the software librarian is also looking for what? Access functions, right? All right. Then what else I can write here also? Yeah. In case of special books, or maybe I can say special books, or I can say rare editions. Rare editions, sometimes some journals could be a monthly journal, monthly magazine, rare edition, special books might be available, might be available, might be available only to senior members, or maybe you can say they may have some kind of uh, rules for, or maybe some kind of privileges for only the researchers, right? Similarly here also, some parts some parts of a software, some parts of a software library might only be accessible, might only be accessible by by certain developers, certain developers, right? What else? Let me revise, so that before moving ahead, although I hope that things are simple as such, it's not difficult at all. If you link with this example, trust me, it's not difficult. But if you do not link it, then it becomes very difficult for your brain to grasp and keep it for a long term. It's not that you will not understand, but what will happen is that your brain will not keep that particular information for a longer period. But when you link that with the real meaning, right, what will happen is that your retention will be for a longer period, right? So when we say library control software, we have tried to link it with a reading library. In reading library we have lots of books, journals, magazines, right? Similarly when we say software library, we mean lots of what? Software, precompiled pieces of codes, scripts or functions. In case of reading library, we have what? Wealth of information ready to be accessed. Similarly here we have what? Wealth of free ready-made functions, or the pieces of codes or softwares to be utilized in different programs or projects as per the requirements. The person who is managing the reading library is called as a librarian. Similarly here we call it as software librarian. Here we have what? Access to books. And who will be given access to books? Only the authorized person, right? So here also only the authorized system or individuals can use specific functions or pieces of code from the software library, right? The librarian will also manage which book issued to whom, here also which course issued to whom, and here we say ensure that return back in the right condition, right? Then the next thing is what? In case of rare editions to only specific person. Similarly here, or here also there could be some special cases for special people, right? Special developers, correct? Now what else? Librarian will also look for what? Safe storage. What do I mean? Books are stored, books are stored in the right section, in the right sections, and are protected, and are protected from damage, from damage. Maybe like, I can say like placing the book in locked cabinets, right? So a librarian will also look for what? Safe storage. So here similarly, here also same thing. Library control software ensures what? Ensures pieces of codes are stored safely and remain uncorrupted, right? What do we mean here when we say stored safely and remain uncorrupted? We can say maybe backups, taking proper backups and recovery functions, backup and recovery, right? We can also say hashing and checksum. If you don't understand what is hashing, don't worry, we have discussed about that in domain 5. So I hope like it's okay, even if you do, even if you have not gone through the domain 5 this particular topic, it's completely fine. But what happens in case of hashing is that, you know I'll just say, based on the reference of this particular thing, the code. So what will happen is that if code gets altered, if any of the code gets altered or modified, maybe due to corruption of that particular file, or maybe uh, because of unauthorized change, the hash value will change. So it will determine whether that particular piece of code is altered, maybe intentionally or unintentionally. When we say unintentional, it means corruption. When we say intentional, it means unauthorized change, right? Even if you don't understand the meaning of hash, do not worry, that is there in the domain 5. But as of now, just understand that, that particular function hashing will help us to understand whether the particular code is modified or altered, maybe intentionally or unintentionally, right? So this is what we mean when I'm trying to say over here is that they are stored safely and remain uncorrupted, right? I just want to link that particular example of safe storage of in case of reading library with this particular IT example, right? Now we also have version control software. So now we have discussed about the library control software, right? Three words: library plus control plus software. These three words itself will give you the entire meaning of that particular term. There is a library, there's a repository, right, wherein we are controlling or we are managing what? Software. It is what? Library control software. We also have something known as version plus control plus software. We also have something known as version control software. What is version control software? Again, do not worry, just look at the literal meaning. Version. What is version? So the main function over here would be versioning, right? Like the way we have in case of a book library, we have what? We have different editions. We have different editions of books, magazines, journals, right? Like we have the first edition of the particular book, the revised second edition, so on and so forth, right? Don't you think so? When I say first edition, revised second edition, we are what? Every change in that particular book, in that particular magazine, in that particular journal is being what? Is being documented. Can I say this? Documented. When I'm saying different editions. What is the need of putting the different numbers? We are trying to say that there's some change, right? When I say first edition, when I say second edition, I am trying to say that there is some change, and because of that particular change I am giving a new version or a new edition, right? So kind of, can I say change management, right? Kind of change management here, right? Similarly here also, what will happen? There is what? Different version, right? Basically we are trying to say how software how software has evolved over time in response to in response to in fact, we also talk about, when we are doing any change, the mostly there would be, the two reasons. Number one would be what? In response to what? In response to fixing bugs, in response to fixing bugs in that particular software, in that particular piece of code, or maybe like, you need what? You need improvements in that particular application or software, or added features, right? So can I say, when I say different version here, how software has evolved over time in response to fixing bugs or improvements or added features, right? Change management, basically, can I say here, who has made the change, when the change was made, why the change was made, proper justifications, documenting everything, right? So basically, when we talk about a library control software, we talk about what? Basically managing the access to that particular library, the particular piece of software or piece of code. And when we talk about version control software, we are talking about what? We are talking about tracking changes, right? So I hope now you have understood both the terms, library control software and version control software. Now we will look at the question on this topic.